opened the steel door and just go in there. And in the corner, like something out of a movie, this furry object just stood and turned around. I could see its eyes light up with the light. It was a lion. They had a lion. They had a pet lion because cartels. Ooh, they did one of those.
And you got a fucking MP5.
I have an MP5, and I didn't. In my mind, I'm not. One of the last things I thought about was shooting it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get out of the room. That was my whole thing. We did this raid on his compound in Baja, where they guns, drugs, everything was going on. Stolen vehicles, money falsification. They were falsifying bills, and it was an insane compound we found out there. And they actually had a lion in there as well, that's a good, interesting part of the story. But when we went there, all of us basically approached it from different sides, and I remember approaching it from the beach, and we were kind of walking towards this compound. It had a bunch of bungalows there. Some of the bungalows were actually rented out, and some American families were staying there. Unbeknownst to them, there was all this stuff going on around them. I remember being very low to the ground and hearing some rounds go off and stuff like that, and just being very low, kind of approaching this place and just looking to my sides and seeing this superhero character in the form of Lieutenant Colonel Lazola just standing there. He said the rounds are coming from over there. Like, you can't make this shit up. We hit this place, and he was with us throughout. He didn't and hide somewhere or go to the background, and he was with us for all of it. It's probably one of the longest days as far as kicking doors in that I had in my life. There's a bunch of bungalows. Each time we would hit one, there was people and there was weird things and their guns, whatever. We hit all these bungalows. At the end of it, there was this weird door, like a steel door with a refrigerator with a bunch of frozen suckling pigs in it. I was like, what's going on here, right? I remember I had my MP5 with a light on it. One of the streamlight ones, the first ones, the yellowish light. You remember those? I don't know how we live with that stuff. And turn out that yellowish light, with these really expensive batteries to get down there. Opened the steel door and just go in there. And in the corner, like something out of a movie, this furry object just stood and turned around. I could see its eyes light up with the light. It was a lion. They had a lion in the room. They had a pet lion because cartels. Ooh, they did one of those.
And you got a fucking MP5.
I have an MP5, and in my mind, I'm not. One of the last things I thought about was shooting it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get out of the room. That was my whole thing. Ran out of the room, closed the door. Cierrele. It's like, and then we had the whole thing about now what do we do with this lion, right? Lieutenant Colonel Lazola walks in. I was like, what's in there? It's a lion. Okay. Don't open the door. We won't. Right? Calm, collected guy. I mean, some of the things that we experienced were completely out of this world. I never saw him bat an eye. Right? That was. I think he was instrumental in turning the fear on the side of them.
Yeah.
He had about 8 or 9 assassination attempts on him during his time working down there.
Shit.
The last one took the use of his legs. Shot him in the back. He's confined to a wheelchair now, but he's still very much a dangerous person. He's still very much a motivated guy. He's made a run for office for the mayor of Tijuana a few times. Actually, I've supported him during these runs, even out. Yeah. He's one of those guys that never acknowledges people. He's like one of those leaders that any small hint of a pat on the back is just beyond him.
Yeah.
But he shared when I was started getting a bit more notoriety. he shared something of mine on his social media and said, "Oh, this man used to this one of the guys that I used to work with. You should listen to him. He's talking about some of the work we did."
Yeah.
And that was like a insanely surreal, just acknowledgement of my existence.
That felt awesome.
That was beyond awesome. And then I went over there and talked to him, and he humbled me back again. What's your name again? Yeah.
When you guys were conducting these raids, like this one that you were just talking about, for example, how many guys are with you, and how many guys were on the cartel side?
I mean, usually somewhere in the numbering in the 30s or 50s on our side, if it was a high level thing, and somewhere around 50 and 100 on the cartel side, depending on where we were and what we were doing. So a lot of times we were outnumbered, completely outnumbered, surrounded. We had to basically adapt a defensive position and just wait it out till the cavalry came in, usually in the form of the army or the Marines, depending on where we were.
Okay, so you guys would take a target down and then basically hand it over to a less specialized unit.
Yeah, so we would find things that were beyond the scope of our ability to guard or keep or move.
Like a fucking lion?
Yeah, like a lion, or like a lot of cocaine or a lot of weed or a lot of guns and a lot of people. And then we'd call in the military, and the military would come in and grab it. And back then there was a political thing. So the military, they wanted people to get more confidence in the ability of the military to combat, that the military was combating some of this stuff. The thing is that the military was not equipped to combat some of this stuff. They weren't a viable police force, but they wanted to gain more confidence. So a lot of the jobs that we would say, "Hey, we found all this stuff. Let the military, take it."
Yeah,
that was a lot of that going on back then, and there was a lot of corruption as well at high levels. Recently, the head of the National Security Administration or police force in Mexico, under the Calderon administration, was arrested for cartel ties. So, I mean, again, trust no one.
Yeah.
Trust no one. So thinking back on that, we would, sometimes we would go after certain things and we would be called off. So that makes you think, right? But I was just a cog in the machine, boots on the ground. Yeah. That's all I was.
How often were you guys going on raids? Was it every night? Was it twice a night?
Every night. Every night we would get something of interest and off we went. Or we would get anonymous reports of armed people somewhere or whatever. And it was basically a race to see who could get there first. Or it was a race to see what we could find first, right? So it was a nightly thing. A bunch of the people that I used to work with were all addicted to the same thing, adrenaline. They all wanted to be in it. They all wanted to be, some people were coming off a shift and they would hear something was going on and just flip that back on. Yeah. There's something to be said about the people you meet and you relate with under some of these conditions. There's a weird bond that happens with people. So we took everything personally that would happen to each of us. So things like having, I'm going off shift and whatever happens, I'm fine. People would rush in even on their breaks, But it was a nightly thing. We would get specific things that we would go after specific people, or we would jalar la hebra, as they call it down there. We would pull the string. We'd find a guy with a cell phone, and the cell phone had him with an AK, gold AK on it. And that would lead us to somebody else, and that would lead us to a house, and that would lead us to 2 water barrels buried with a bunch of guns from Fast and the Furious in his backyard, and that would lead us to somebody else. And it was sometimes one thing would turn into a couple of 3 nights of just raiding and hitting houses all at once.
Was there always shots fired?
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.